So welcome everybody. This is a new Oxygen for Leadership Lab. The topic today is the perfection trap. And before I start introducing the panelists, let me share some housekeeping with you. First of all, you are all muted, but you're very welcome to share your information, your questions, your views in the chat box. And you can do that publicly so everybody else can enjoy your inspiring words, or if you want to do that anonymously, you can just do it to the admin, and then I will be the only one reading it and sharing it without mentioning your name. Just to start, let us know if you can hear us, if you can see us, if everything is okay. Let us know where you are from and maybe also what temperature you're in, because I have some panelists here from Belgium. It's very, very warm. I'm in Marrakesh. It's very warm as well. And Montara is in Canada. So I guess, okay. Hi, Anna. So I guess you can hear and see us. That's good. Everybody else is also welcome to share their location and their mood. There's a little bit of delay in the chat box, but we will catch that. Other things, we will introduce all your questions and feedback immediately when it's available. If you want to join us on the panel, if you want to be live for everybody else, you can just raise your hand. When you see on your screen, you see the little hand, you can just click that, and then I will get you in if we have the time or the possibility. You're very welcome to do that. Just stay with us till the end, because we have a lot of free offers for you. We won't sell anything. We promise this is not a selling event. Everything that we share with you, our views or tips or tools, is for free. And we welcome you to use them and to introduce them in your daily life. So, welcome everybody again, and also welcome to the panelists. I'm so happy that we have you here. So just share a little bit of information about yourself, and of course also why you relate to the subject, the perfection trap. So Goedele, can we start with you?
Yes, of course. So hello everybody. I am Goedele Leesen from Belgium. I am a personal wellness guide, so my field of interest is everything that's related to feeling good, looking good, working in a nice, doable, successful, professional way. I'm a yoga meditation teacher, and I'm an author. I wrote a few books. My last book, my fourth book, is called The Wellness Formula, and it is actually a model that I developed to help people to actually achieve their personal goals, their good intentions, to make them real. So my, how can I say, my relation to the topic, I am a perfectionist. I think in the past it kind of blocked me, but I found a way around it, so I can use it to reinforce myself. It's a constant thing for me. So I go up and I'm very aware, oh, there I am again, the perfection trap, and then I kind of change myself around that. And so yeah, so I evolve, I observe, I evolve like everybody, I guess. So thank you, and thank you for joining us.
Great, Goedele. Thank you so much. Montara, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Helena, and good morning, everybody from Canada. My name is Montaha Hidepi, and I'm based in Guelph, Ontario, outside of Toronto. So I had an extensive experience in strategic marketing and color marketing, and also in color advising, color forecasting. Also an author. I have authored many articles and co-authored various books. My most recent authoring was a memoir called Groping for Truth. And my relationship with perfection, I used to be a perfectionist. And actually if I went into an interview for a job, if they asked me, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? The first thing I used to say was, I am a perfectionist. Fortunately, I learned how to be less perfect and more precise. And so, obviously, it's a process. You have to learn how to get in and out of it. Sometimes you need perfection, but hey, life is not perfect. Earth is not perfect. So why should we be perfect?
Thank you so much. Veronique, welcome. Please tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Thank you, Helena. I am Veronique de Preker from Belgium also. I live in the beautiful city of Antwerp. And I used to be a financial manager and a CPA for many, many years. People always called me very meticulous. And ever since already a few years after the financial crisis in 2008, I started my own company, and I now help mostly B2B companies and their people to implement new strategies that work ever since the financial crisis of 2008. And I help them implement new leadership, self-leadership, social selling, social recruitment. And the strategies also work for smaller companies or solopreneurs, of course, because the strategies from before this digital era don't work as well as they did. And you'd be surprised how many companies still haven't completely embraced this digital era. So there's still a lot of pioneer work to do. Why do I relate to this topic? People call me a lot of times a perfectionist. I've never seen it that way because I think there's a number of areas in my life where I'm everything but a perfectionist, or I can't even live up to the standards that I would like to have. However, I've always strived for excellence, and that's how I perceive my so-called perfectionism. I was raised to always do my very best, and that's probably together with my own personality where I evolved into I want to be excellent in as many things as I can be.
Thank you so much, Veronique. Basically, this is a very nice way to bridge my first question. Because the reason I chose this topic is because in my coaching work, especially with women leaders, I encounter perfectionists quite often as not as something that is seen in a positive way by my clients, because it makes them it gets them stuck. They're not moving forward because they think it's not good enough, it's not perfect, so they just don't do it. They procrastinate, they avoid things like that. My first question, and it's also a question that I would like to the audience, so please feel free also to put in the chat box. What is the definition of perfection? How do you perceive perfection? Any one of you that wants to start? I will check also the chat box to see if we find some great definitions over there.
Can I go?
Montaha, please.
Okay, in my opinion, perfection is more of a state of mind, and it's a way of putting yourself into a place where basically you expect and demand a lot from yourself. So I do agree with Veronique about the excellence. So I really want to have everything that I do be good, be precise, be correct. However, in many cases, I believe that what happens is that we confuse perfection with precision and perfection with something that is well done. Because we want something to be free of mistakes and errors. Does it mean it's perfect? There's always room for improving whatever we do, right? So I think if we get out of the square of thinking perfection and change the name by something else, it will be seen and considered or perceived differently. So that's why I call it is a state of mind.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I like
Anyone?
that. I like that actually because precision, for me, precision um, relates to the fact that you do the best you can given the circumstances. What I see sometimes when I have something in mind how it should be, I kind of have a clear picture how it should be, but I forget that there are always circumstances, always things that you cannot control, and they change the image that I have in my head in reality. And being able to let go of that, being able to let go of the control over this outcome that you had in your head without thinking about all the possible circumstances, I think that's like, that gives you a state of relaxation that opens you to be more creative with what's happening around you with those circumstances and not kind of clinging and trying to control what's happening in the real world, in the moment.
Yeah. Okay. Veronique, do you want to add something there?
Yes, especially to your experience that a lot of female leaders experience some kind of blockage because they think they aren't good enough. I really don't want to go into a gender discussion, but I truly believe that data shows that female or that women are more exposed to this feeling or feel this much more than men. And it's true that most of the time they block themselves when going for a certain position. I think it's about when men think they are good for 60% that they already apply, and women can fill all the boxes maybe for 90%, and then they will say, hey, I don't have that last 10%, so no, I'm not going to apply for the job. So they really block themselves. And also it sometimes will lead to procrastination because the job isn't good enough yet, so they don't want to put it out there. I'm actually working this summer on a rebranding, and I really have to keep in mind for myself, if my website, if my new website is already finished for 80%, it's already good enough to publish it. Because you will never be able to get to the perfection, because it always changes, like Hudle says, circumstances or things just change and evolve. And I truly believe that when others perceive us already as perfectionists, that if we apply that 80% rule, we are almost already like at least 95 or 99% of other people that don't have this perfectionistic characteristic, I believe. So, and I always try to tell women, like, for example, when you think you really want that job, or when you think you really can do it, even though you don't tick all the boxes, please apply. Please shout it out everywhere you can, because people need to hear you. They won't come and find you. You have to tell it yourself that you want to apply for a certain job, or that you want to work with a certain client or with a certain account. So
Absolutely. Now, I must say that I agree when you say there's a lot of research and there's a lot of personal experience with my clients as well, that women suffer a lot more from perfection than men. But on the other hand, I see that half of the participants on the webinar and the registrants on this lab are men. So I guess there must be an interest there as well, and there must be playing something there as well. So I'm very interested to find out, and I would like to ask the audience, do you believe that perfectionism is something that is a lot more about women, or as a man, or maybe as a woman who knows a lot of men that are perfectionists, do you think that we see it wrong? I would be very interested to enter that also into the discussion. Yeah. Now, one of the things that is very interesting is indeed to find out how perfectionism is keeping us from doing the things we want, from living freely, living our lives fully. I have some experience with that myself, but I'm very interested to find out from the panelists. If you wouldn't have been that perfectionist in the past, what things would you have done that you didn't do right now? Any stories there? Any ideas?
Well,
What could you have done sooner?
I think that I got over my perfectionism to that extent that I actually wrote and created 4 books. I did the setup of the styling and the pictures, everything. I was on the pictures myself. So it kind of took me every time like a jump and the will to let go of control of the outcome, because once it's printed, you cannot do anything anymore. Oh my God, that sentence is not perfect, you know? So every book for me was a lesson in letting go of that perfectionism. So I think for me, things that I would like to do and maybe not do enough is things like this. Because you think, oh my God, it's live, and what if I say something wrong and maybe I don't know the answer or whatever? You know, letting go of that is it's good. I mean, I think I push myself a little bit here. I think it's good. I also had, maybe you cannot see it, but I had like a scratch in my eye, and my whole eye was like bloodshot, and I looked like coming from a horror movie, like yesterday or the day before, and I was like, oh my God. On the webinar, everybody would look at my eyes and say, oh, what happened with her? But these are also things that I'm like, okay, whatever happens, I just do it. I just get over myself and I just do it, and afterwards it's always fine. And so what I learned, like about perfectionism, time after time after time again, is that it is so important to just stay who you are, just stay your authentic self, and not try to be something that something that you are not. And nobody can actually be better in being yourself. So whatever job you apply to, if they don't want the person that you truly are, then maybe it's not a good job for you. Maybe it's not a good employer for you. I think people, it's very important to just stand up and not be afraid of showing who you are, what you can do. And if people reject you because of that, well, okay, too bad for them, right? So, yeah, I think that's something that I learned, and it helps me a lot in doing whatever I endeavor to do.
I really appreciate you bringing that up, Gudle, because there are two levels where you can see perfectionism. First of all, it is in what we deliver in terms of delivering a book or delivering a report or delivering a house as an architect or whatever. And this is basically something that where you can define the criteria. And you can say, okay, something that is very good or is excellent or is perfect has these criteria. Perfectionism, when you're related to yourself, showing up into the world and being like going public with a website or with a book or something else, there are no real criteria because it is about you as a person.
Very
and
true.
That's even more difficult.
Very true. And the image that we make up, how we should be, is different for
In our
everybody.
heads.
Obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yes.
Montana,
Sure.
I see you going like, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because I relate to what you just said, because, I have been living in many countries around the world. I was basically born and raised in Venezuela, and my first language is Spanish. So my parents come from Syria, and then at a certain time in my life, my parents moved back to their country, and they took us all with them. And so I had to learn Arabic, and eventually I learned Arabic, but I always had an accent. And I used to be very shy because when I spoke in a very broken way, and people used to mock me. And so what happened is over time I learned to speak various languages. And I do have an accent in all the languages, like you can hear it right now, even in English, I have an accent. And so for a certain period of time in my life, I used to not like to speak in public because of thinking what people are going to say about me, right? And obviously, people usually tag you by your accent, right? No matter where you are in the world, you speak and people say, oh, okay. So, however, for me, I think I broke that cycle or that circle the moment that I thought, I don't really care about what people think about how I speak. As long as I can express myself and people understand what I'm saying, it doesn't matter if I have an accent because that's what defines me. That's what defines my personality. And I don't need to be speaking perfectly English as long as you understand what I'm saying. I don't need to be speaking perfectly Arabic or any other language as long as I can communicate the message and you can feel what I'm saying.
Yep.
And so I think at that moment, like breaking that barrier with myself and accepting who I am with all my flaws and all my imperfections, that helped me a lot, basically getting out of the perfectionism area. Because I used to think to be able to be accepted everywhere I go, I have to be that something that people expect by me and from me. So it's usually those high expectations that you build up in your mind. These are the things that hinder you and sometimes keep you in that area where you're no longer yourself, or you are not to start with yourself. And usually whatever you do it just to please others. And the big question is, do you want to live to please others, or do you want to live to start pleasing yourself first? And if others agree with that, so be it. If not, what are you going to do?
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. Veronique, any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, you asked the question, what would I do if or what would I have done if I wouldn't be blocked by my own striving for excellence? And at this moment, I really have an actual thing going on, which is I really should start vlogging, like on video. And it's hard to overcome the fear of going on camera all the time. So it's really something I'm working on at this moment, and it's it's something that I know from the inside. Like, hey, just do it. And at the same time, it's that kind of exposure for which I'm afraid to have. I don't know what actually I'm afraid of, but because I don't think I would really care about possible comments. It's more if I would be content with the quality that I want to put out there. So,
Yeah. If you put yourself out on video, or maybe also in a book, you have no control on the reactions. It's like,
true.
It's showing yourself, and that's it. And it's about being afraid that people might have a comment or might have remarks, and there's nothing you can do there. So you have to let that be. So I guess I guess that's the hardest thing to overcome. But a lot of people overcame it before us. Hudle, you have a lot of experience with that.
Well, I have a story. I have a story about that. It's a few years ago that I was asked to teach at the Kundalini Yoga Festival in France, and it's a festival where a lot of yoga teachers come. So my teachers are there. A lot of people who are very deep into that tradition, and it's for thousands of people. And it starts actually at 4:30 in the morning. And the first thing that you do as a teacher is you recite Japji. And Japji, it's in Gurmukhi. So it's like a language that I don't master, but I know how it sounds and I can read it and recite it. But so you do it with all these people who do it for, let's say, 3 times as long as I am doing, or 10 times, I don't know. And so I had to start with that. And the 10 days before, so I was fine, I was okay. But then the event came closer and closer, and I became so scared of being judged by all these people, all these teachers. Oh my God. And I kind of, my face broke out, and I wanted to call in sick or break a leg or whatever. I had like all these fears, anxiety going through my body and my mind. And then a few days before I had to teach, I changed my mindset, and I started to focus on the fact that teaching yoga is one of the things that I love the most in the world. Yeah, I do it from my heart. I do it because I want to make people feel good. I want them to have a nice experience. I want them to be relaxed and enjoy. And so and then I was thinking, whoever can judge me for doing that? Whoever can judge me for wanting to share something that I love so much? So it switched in my head. I was like, whatever I do, I'm on that stage. I made this commitment to get up at 3 in the morning, to be ready at 4:30 for all these people. So who can take that against me? And so I was teaching. It was an amazing opportunity for growth, actually, because after that, obviously things went a little bit wrong. It started to rain. We had to move from one stage with all these people to a tent that was set up for another event. So it was kind of a messy start. But after that, when I was walking around on the camping site, people came to me and they said, "Oh, thank you so much. I was sitting, I had pain in my back, I had pain in my legs, and I feel so good right now." And so yeah, that helped me to let go of this idea that I needed to do it perfect, because what I delivered was just fine. And what I delivered, it came from my heart. I could do no more. I did the best I could. And so it was a big lesson, actually, for me.
Thank you for
Yeah,
sharing that. Basically, you refocused on your intentions
exactly.
and not what you wanted to bring for other people instead of how you
Exactly.
stood there or what you said, or you could say
How I
also,
looked. Yes.
absolutely, because people are not interested in that. They're
No,
interested in what you bring them as an experience. And if you can,
exactly.
and if you're a performer, or if you're a blogger, or if you're, it is about the experience. It is not about the color of your dress or how your hair is done, or it is about the experience that you offer people. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Thank you for that.
sometimes, if I may add, sometimes like what you do, it needs to be precise. It needs to be correct. For instance, if you are filling up your tax returns at the end of the year, you want that to have no mistakes or error, right? If you
Mhm.
are writing, I don't know, an official professional letter, you don't want to have typos. If you're writing your resume to
Yeah.
send to an employer, you don't want to have grammatical mistakes or anything. So sometimes if we agree that we can interchange the word perfect by the word precise or correct, so then I would aspire definitely to have things done correctly and precisely where they need to be. However, if I'm gonna really aim for perfection, and it's funny because I was reading something about perfection in preparation for this panel, and I was reading that even Earth is not perfectly round, and even the moon is not perfectly round. So all the planets, although we perceive them as perfectly round, they are not.
Mhm.
So if we can accept that the planet where we live is not perfectly round, although we see it round. So going back to the 80% rule, Veronique, uh, the most important thing is that to aim to be precise and correct as much as possible.
Mhm.
And so just the fact of switching in our mind the usage of the term. So the terminology has a big effect on changing our state of mind, basically. Is it
Absolutely.
perfection or is it correctiveness?
Mhm. Absolutely. In the meantime, I just want to go to the chat because Bobby, thank you for that. Bobby mentioned that he doesn't know if perfection is more a masculine or a feminine tendency. I'm constantly letting perfection limit the development of many initiatives. So you can obviously, thank you for sharing that, Bobby. I'm still moving forward with other things, so it's a mixed bag rather than constantly in every moment. Okay, yeah. So there we are, and that's probably also an explanation why we have so many masculine participants who are, of course, very, very welcome. Peggy is saying that in today's high-tech world, things are moving so fast that we can't always take the time we think is needed for perfection. Absolutely, yeah. So it is. This is about good enough. This is, and actually, I think it's a concept that starts to enter in a lot of organizations. The concept of good enough. Thank you for that. Also, Benjamin says perfection does not exist.
In our
Anna, thank
heads.
you. Yeah, so there's a lot to say. And Olivia addresses everybody of us and she says there's this acronym FEAR, false evidence apparently real. Yeah, I guess there's a lot of things going on in our head and there's a gap between the reality and how we perceive it. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Now, so we have seen what achievements that we that took us longer or maybe that we did not realize because of our tendency for perfection. One of the stories that I have heard quite often is in terms of negotiation, because we don't go, as a lot of women don't go for promotions because they can't tick all the boxes. The same goes for women negotiating for salary raises, for example, or women entrepreneurs negotiating their fees. And the funny thing is that if they negotiate for somebody else, they have no trouble at all. I don't know if that resonates, if you recognize that. So if they negotiate for their own fees or for something that is really for them, they think it's not good enough or they're not good enough to have that negotiation at that level. If it's for somebody else, they can do it. Do you recognize that, or anybody? Does that ring a bell?
Well,
Did I
I
make
think
myself?
it has to do with the standards that we put up for ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you really put in your mind high standards for yourself, and then you are always self-evaluating yourself against those standards, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
in the negotiation or in any other context, you're always going to have those frustrations because you are not up to the expectations that you have already raised for ourselves. And so ideally, you have to have realistic goals and realistic expectations. So, am
Yeah.
I really putting to myself a goal or an expectation that is unattainable and unachievable, or am I going to do it? Or am I going to put to myself goals that I will be in a position to achieve with the tools that I have?
So what can we do, or what did you do to close that reality gap?
For me, because of the many jobs that I have been at and the many trainings that I have gone through about recognizing um, what is achievable and what is not achievable, there is one tool that I learned that is called SMART goals.
Mm-hmm.
And SMART goals means that you have to put goals on to yourselves and to others that are really achievable and can be achieved in a specific period of time and so on. So if you basically lower a little bit the inner critique that you have, and if you prioritize the things that you do, and if you understand that I'm going to have to achieve a certain level of preciseness and correctiveness without really having to think that I have to be the best person that does that job, you're helping yourself, because if your expectations are here when you're working within a team, you think that everybody has to be here. And let's face it, not everybody has the same capacity that you might have. And then how many hours do you need to work to achieve things up to the level maybe that you put yourself in this year? So if I put a level that is a little bit lower and I am able to achieve it within the means that I have, then I can understand also that others can do this with me at the same level.
Absolutely. I think, Veronique, you also work with leaders. I think that, or I find that people who are perfectionists also take a lot on their shoulders because they don't delegate, and they make it very, very hard for themselves. And actually, they don't offer opportunities for their teams to develop because they tend to do everything themselves, or they tend to control it afterwards, not allowing other ideas or other ways to do it in the picture. Is that something that you also encounter with your leadership experience?
Yes, I have actually two approaches on that. I always, well, when I look back at how I was dealing with my team back as a financial manager, fortunately, I was always thinking ahead, like, if they can do what I can do, then I can move on. So I tried to delegate as much as possible what they could do, what they could bury, of course. And I tried to instruct them from the beginning in a certain manner, to tell them or to show them how it was best, how the work was best done. And I also gave them a lot of whys and a lot of what the end result needed to be for whom, in order to create the whole picture of where I wanted them to go. And so they liked that because at that moment I not only gave them a working, efficient method, because I had been thinking about that already long before, of course, I handed over the job. So I gave them an efficient system, and also, and now I'm forgetting the second point. Oh yes, they learned discipline. Till today, there are people that tell me, I learned discipline from you, and it still serves me right now very well in the job that I'm doing currently. So if I see that with other leaders right now, it's most of the time, it's somehow a lack of trust and a lack of self awareness. No, help me.
You mean a lack of trust in the capabilities of their team?
A lack of trust for them, but also sometimes inside themselves, they have a lack of self-trust. What did you say, Hudla?
Self-confidence.
Self-confidence.
Self-confidence, indeed. That's what I was. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. So most of the time, they have somewhere a problem with their self-confidence. So then I try to have them look inside and see what's missing there, and also trying to see how they would like to be treated and have that transferred to their team, to treat others like they would be treated. If they want, I always liked a lot of freedom. And if I didn't get it, I just took it, right? But I also showed that I could handle it. So I tried to get them acquainted with that kind of idea. How do you want to do your job? And how do you think you can get the best out of your team? Is it by controlling them every second of the day, or by giving them real good instructions and the tools they need to do it as best as they can, and then let them go and give them as much freedom, always, of course, with the end result in mind, which should be very well communicated. Most of the people forget that they have to communicate very well the different steps, why and how and the what, and always create a bigger picture for people to understand why it is that you want them to do something maybe in a certain way, or why they have to do it.
Yeah. Also, this aligns with what Montaha said about setting smart goals. You can do that not only for yourself, but also for your team. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Other ideas on that, on how it is to be a perfectionist for your team or for other stakeholders, other people in your environment? Any ideas or stories there, what the impact is?
From my own experience, I think it puts a lot of stress on your team. I used to see that a lot with my team because I wanted them to be high achievers, high performers at the same level that I was seeing it in my mind. And not all of them were in a position to do that. So I am sure that from one end, they saw me as a controlling freak because I wanted everything to be done my way. But I don't think it's correct to judge the perfectionist person this way because we don't see it. I mean, when we are perfectionists, we don't control it. We don't see ourselves and we don't see the expectations and the stress that we put upon others. And we are seen more as a micromanaging mostly.
Yeah.
And eventually people don't want to work with you. And that creates a lot of tension because you have this expectation and then they have a different expectation from you as well as a manager. And I do agree with Veronique. If you communicate all the expectations, who is the target audience of the work that you're doing, what is the language that you need to use, what is the time frame, and then you provide the freedom for them to do what they need to do, that helps a lot. But sometimes the perfectionist can't really act in that way because for them everything has to be perfect. And so eventually you end up being perceived as we don't want to work with you because you are too bossy.
Yeah, what I learned also when I was making my books, I had a clear image in my mind how the picture should look like, and I had a very good photographer who needed to know my ideas. So I was always making these mood boards with all the exact positions that I was thinking that should come here, and we need these attributes, etc., etc. And I had it in my mind, a very precise way how I wanted it. And these pictures turned out to be completely different. When I gave the idea to the photographer and we were in a certain setting, again, circumstances could not be controlled to the extent that that a human person can control weather or whatever, like the flowers or the clouds or the sun or so. But I learned that by letting go of the control of how it should look like, it was better. Because and I felt also when you give people the opportunity to be creative and to find ways how to do things with the briefing, with a good briefing that you give them, then the outcome is like 1 + 1 is 3. You have a good briefing. The person gives what he can do and his view on that briefing, and what you get is something that you could not have done on your own. So it's co-creation, really, and that's what I learned.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's this story in that I remember with when you were talking about vlogging, Veronique. I tended to vlog a lot, and I ask feedback from people that are very close to me because I mean it's always easier to be vulnerable with people that are close to you, where you already have established this relationship and this trust. And I was sometimes very amazed when I delivered something that I thought that was pretty close to perfect for me, that apparently it didn't resonate for them. The story, my son, for example, he said, Mom, do I really have to read your blog? It's 4 pages. And I say, yes, it's 4 pages and it's very good content. You will learn a lot. So not even you can read it just to tell me how you feel, but you will also learn. And he said, but I don't read 4 pages. And people of my generation, they don't read 4 pages. They might be perfect, but you are not achieving your goal because you are not adapting to what we need. You only set your own standards, and those are not the standards of other people, so you don't get where you want to be because you're only thinking. That's why I think that perfectionism is very, it's a little bit, you could say, egocentric. I don't know if you agree with that, because it is about what you think that is right, while the people that you want to reach and that you want to impact think something differently. And if you cannot relate to what they need and what they think, it could be perfect, but I'm going to be very blunt, it could be worthless.
Yeah,
So
in that, but then again, I think it's just as the giver, it's so important just to stay authentic also. I mean, it's not because they expect you to do it in a certain way that you should do it if it doesn't feel good to you, right? You can adapt. Obviously, when you want to reach a certain target group, you have to adapt to their needs, obviously, but in that, it's so important to stay yourself.
Yeah. So how do you keep that balance?
Testing, I guess. Like what you say, you probably found like a way that your son liked to read your blogs and that you felt they were good in terms of content. You probably found like a way in between that. So I think it's just feeling it out, I guess.
Yeah.
If I may, Helena, going forward on what Montaha says and your question, first of all, I never try to ask as much work from others as I ask for myself. I never ask that they do as many hours as I do, or I never asked that before when I was a financial manager. The outcome to me is much more important than the way toward it. Also, it needs to be as efficient, of course, as possible. But sometimes, taking into account the circumstances, a different way can be more efficient at a certain time than the first way you thought how it should be done. So the result is much more important, I believe, than how it is done, as long as it's as efficient as possible. But also the people you can work with, or you want to work with, if you're fortunate to hire your own people inside the company or outside the company as a freelancer, or if you can choose the people that you work with, that is already a very important standard that you can set there. Because if you're honest from the beginning of how you like to work with others, then you will see that during the interview, they either tune in or they tune out. What I see with a lot of entrepreneurs or CEOs or HR managers who hire people, when I hear them say, I can't find the right people or I can't keep the right people, then I always try to find out how they do their interviews, because that's where the real problem is. Because either they don't communicate exactly what they expect from the person, and they either promise too much or they don't say enough. And so it's very important that they during the interview, they already are very honest with the person. I always told the people when I was hiring for a financial department, I always told them, you know that there are deadlines. And so sometimes it will be possible that I will ask you to stay longer because we need to get to that deadline. But I will also be the first one to let you go on Friday at 3 p.m., for example, and go get a drink or something. So if you balance that the right way, and if you tell them exactly what sometimes will be needed and how you like to work, it makes it much more easy to work with other people. Well, that's
Absolutely.
at
Thank
least
you.
my experience.
It's
Thank you
very
for
interesting what you said, Veronique. I would like to add to that, that when you are a perfectionist, you communicate very little because you have built this image in your brain and these whatever expectations you have. And sometimes you just can't communicate them to the others, right? And so the people around you, they don't know uh, that you're a perfectionist, but they know that you want everybody to work the way you want them to do, right? And so then you always end up to be the hated person in the office because there's no understanding. You try to make them understand that you do this because, or you have this image, you want them to be the best, or you want it to be perfect, and nobody picks on the word perfect because it's just a word that we are used so much to hear everywhere in an office or outside the office. So when you say, I want this to be perfect, people don't think that, oh, you are a perfectionist, and that therefore you might have certain ways of being. So they don't want to go through that barrier, and you end up being isolated. And that's really very painful when you have those feelings.
Okay, thank you for that. I I suggest that we wrap up because we're on the 50 minutes, and I just want to spend some time also for the offers. So maybe a quick round of final learnings, of final sharings that you want to give to the audience on the topic of perfectionism. If you would like have 3 last sentences, what would they be on this topic?
If I may, I think we forget there's a lot of good stuff in striving for excellence because we are perceived as very devoted to a cause and as very genuine. So a lot of entrepreneurs actually like to work with people who are maybe perceived as perfectionists or strive for excellence. So that's one of the positive things I believe. We also see details, not only the overview but also the details, and we also feel people very well. So whenever coming into a company, sometimes I see a lot more after just walking through an office than the people who are working with others or with the colleagues already for 5 or 10 years. And so that eye for a detail can also help the organization to improve itself. So I think we shouldn't forget about the positive aspects of striving for excellence as we
Absolutely.
do.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah. Other final thoughts, Goodlin?
Yeah, I would say be who you authentically are, because in being who you authentically are, you are perfect. So that could be, yeah, that is something that helped me so much. And just if you keep that in mind, you cannot do anything wrong. So
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Muntaha, final words?
I think if we took things as a container that includes contents, so think of, for instance, a gift, and usually there is a content inside a box, and that's the container, right? And it's nicely wrapped with a ribbon, etc. So I like to think about it this way. Sometimes the container must be very well presented, perfect, right? But sometimes the content, which are the details, are more important than the container. So we have to make a balance and think about, in this specific situation, what is the most important thing? Is it the content or is it the container? Sometimes both are as important, but sometimes one is more important than the other. And if we are able to find the balance, eventually we will deliver what is required to be delivered in the way it should be delivered.
Mm, great, great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rudle and Montana and Veronique, for your views and for your learnings. I guess we never tend to find solutions or define the strict tips and tools for the topics that we bring. The idea is to bring learnings and to have our audience processing new views and refocus or reframe and work with that. So thank you for that very much. I would love to invite you all for our next lab, that is next month, August 22nd. It is a topic that is very close to this one. It is about the disease to place. We have great panelists from all over the world that will be sharing their views and learnings on the disease to please, and probably also the link with the perfection trap. If everything goes fine, you should find the link where you could click to register. If you just click, you don't have to leave this lab. It will open a new tab and you can register afterwards. So please feel very welcome to register for August 22nd. Also, if you can't make it, you know that you will receive the recordings afterwards. The second thing that I would like to offer from Oxygen for Leadership is 1 year free affiliate membership. Some people probably know that we have a leadership platform with a lot of interesting content that you can use at your own pace. And one of the paying areas is affiliate membership, and you can register for 1 year for free on this membership level. So please feel free to join us also there. It should pop up at this moment, and then I will remove it within 3 seconds. So it's about being quick. And the last thing I would like to offer is something that we launched this summer, and this is the e-coaching track from Oxygen for Leadership. And you have the possibility to select one of the 4 free e-coaching tracks where you have individual coaching and a lot of content. So just click here to make a selection of one of the e-coaching tracks that you want to have. You can book or schedule a time slot for an e-coaching session with me and receiving also all the content. And that's what Oxygen for Leadership account, but our 3 panelists also have something to offer for you. So I would like to start with Montaha. Can you please let us know what you want to share and what giveaway you brought for today?
Yes, so we spoke about my book, Groping for Truth. So I will be provide a link to an ebook for free to those the participants that signed up for the panel. And the link will be available for 3 weeks as of today. So it will be available until August 16th.
Okay. The link should be visible now for the audience. Of course, you will also receive a follow-up mail with all the information of all the offers and also the contact details of our panelists. Just tell me a little bit more, or tell us a little bit more about the book. What is it about? Why should people start reading it?
Well, Groping for Truth is a memoir, and basically it tells my story with physical abuse by my mother, and also sexual harassment for the time that I lived in Syria, and also domestic violence.
Okay.
And
yeah.
so basically, the Me Too movement helped me a lot in coming out of the closet, if we may say that, with my story with abuse and violence, and how I transformed, basically, how the abuse helped me transform from a victim to a person that sees things in a different way and achieve success.
Okay. So there's a lot of learning in it also, in how to overcome.
Yes.
Okay, Thank you so much. Thank you very much for sharing that. So if you click the link, you can just download the ebook. And thank you so much, Montaha, for offering this. Rudle, you also had something to offer?
Yeah, my latest book, it's not in ebook form. I will show it. It's in Dutch. It's called The Wellness Formula. It is based on, well, it's a model, self-care model that I developed myself. It's a sort of wellness circle that I developed, and rituals are a very important part of taking care of yourself. So what I strongly believe is that rituals help you to achieve success professionally and personally, because they help you to take a little piece of your time for yourself. And when you work on your personal wellness, you actually help yourself in achieving whatever you want in your life. But it starts with yourself. So I cannot offer it in as an ebook. It's not in English. It's in Dutch, and also my publisher would not like that because it's not available as an ebook. But I have with my partner, Dr. Maddie Brown, we developed a 12-week coaching program, and creating rituals is one of the strategies that are part of it. And we have actually a free PDF for you. It's an Execute Your Vision by Creating Rituals PDF that you will, we will send it to you. So everybody who wants it can just send me an email. I send the PDF, you can try it, and it will help you to get clarity about what you can do to support yourself to be successful and professionally and personally. So
Great, thank you.
Yeah, shall I type my email address now?
Yes, you can type your email address in the chat so people can have it there. And what I did is I linked your the contact page of your website, so people can also there fill in their details and let you know that they contacted you via this Oxygen for Leadership Lab, so you know what it is about. So, but you can also find the Goodless email address in the chat box, and it will also be in the follow-up email for everybody, so no worries there. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Gudle. Veronique, you're in the process of finalizing something, aren't you?
Yes, indeed. Like I said at the beginning, I am working on a rebranding, and so my new website isn't quite finished yet. Maybe next week, but not this week. And so because I wanted to give the opportunity already for people to subscribe, I've created a basic link, so far away from perfection. So I created a basic link already that works just fine. So applying the 80% rule of satisfaction, it works, and so people can already leave their address there, because they can then receive my 123 networking tips for their success that I'm working on, and they were able then to receive that. So that's my my present for today and for the audience.
Thank you so much, Veronique. So if you want to be perfect networkers, you should register with Veronique and her website. I will probably will be perfect when it's finished. Knowing you, I'm very curious to see the result. Thank you so much. So I think there's a lot of stuff that you can work on. Some of it is very much related to the topic of today. Other stuff is in general boosting your leadership development, your personal leadership and your professional leadership. Thank you so much, panelists, Montaha, Gudle, Veronique, for your contribution. It was really amazing to have you here. I hope that you all enjoyed it, that you take your learnings and are able to implement some of the ideas and the tools in your life. Looking forward to your stories and looking forward to see you again in our next session, August 22nd, on the disease to please. Thank you so much and hope to see you soon. Bye.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you, Helena.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.